Labdien! Tūdaļ sāksim.
We are about to start the press conference after the annual meeting of the presidents of the Baltic states, and the first speaker is the President of Latvia, Edgars Rinkevičs. Then the Estonian President Alars Karis will speak, and the Lithuanian President Gintas Nausėda, the President of Latvia. We have just finished our annual meeting at the level of the presidents of the Baltic states. Latvia is at the end of the year of the Baltic Assembly, as well of the Baltic Council of Ministers, our presidency. And this is already a tradition that we have an opportunity to discuss several issues together with the two other presidents on the political, economic, defense, and culture level. This year was a very special year, and this is one of the reasons we are here at the National Library. This is because together with Estonia, we are celebrating 500 years of the first printed book. And we have discussed a lot with other two presidents regarding cooperation between our states on those issues. So regarding the most important issues, of course, security and defense were extremely important. Those are important for our region. So basically, all countries have expanded budgetary resources for defense. We also discussed border protection. Those are both security measures and other issues. We talked about anti-mobility measures, and also we spoke with the colleagues from other Baltic states on what are the issues that our military forces are working on and what are anti-mobility measures also on the railway. And we will continue coordination on those issues because yet the decisions have not been made. And in Latvia, the discussion will take place after the new year when there will already be an evaluation on the highest level. And next week, the prime ministers of the Baltic states will have an opportunity to discuss those issues as well. But of course, we understand that coordination regarding anti-mobility measures is extremely important on the level of military experts as well as on the level of other experts. We also discussed the problems that are now very important on the border of Latvia and Belarus, as well as Lithuania and Belarus. We know that only in Lithuania, but also in Latvia, we have similar issues. And of course, our cooperation is very close, and our defense issues are solved together. But we understand that we also need better stance regarding the European measures. And we saw the balloons coming in the territory of Lithuania and Latvia. So those attacks are, in fact, something that makes us stronger. And we have to make sure that we have to work together to exclude the possibility of those hybrid attacks and those elements of hybrid war. And this, of course, is an issue on both how we do at the level of security institutions, but also we understand that there is an element regarding organized crime, because it was also an opportunity to bring cigarettes, illegal cigarettes to our territory. Another issue we have discussed is cooperation and help to Ukraine. We talked about the peace process. We understand that territorial integrity and Ukrainian integrity and sovereignty are extremely important to make sure that we have lasting peace in Ukraine and in Europe. Of course, we will continue working together at the level of the EU and NATO, at the transatlantic level, to make sure that there is military support and financial support provided to Ukraine, as well as on implementing sanctions against Russia. I'm sure we have the same attitude towards use of frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine. And we know that not everybody has the same attitude toward the frozen assets at the EU level. At the end, I want to add, so if we talk about cooperation between the Baltic states during this year, then I have to say it's been very positive. In February in Vilnius, we had an opportunity to see how we disconnected from Brill altogether, and we have synchronized with the EU energy networks and also the transport connections. This work has been successful. We talked about the Rail Baltica projects, and we have done a lot to make sure that we are able to support our friends, partners in Ukraine. But of course, this is not the end of our work. The next year will be just as active. So from my side, this is all what I wanted to say as an introduction, and I will then give the floor to our colleagues, and you will have an opportunity to ask questions. The Estonian president, please.
Thank you, dear Edgars, dear Gitanas, dear journalists. I'm truly delighted to be here in Riga, in the Latvian National Library, a place that carries special symbolic meaning for us this year. As mentioned already by the President, both Estonia and Latvia are celebrating the year of the book. And in honor of this, we cycled together with Edgars this summer through the villages along the shared border. Today we had an excellent and meaningful discussion with my Latvian and Lithuanian colleagues, one that once again demonstrates our deep mutual understanding. Our regional security cooperation works very well, and Estonia highly values the solidarity shown after Russia's airspace violation in September. Russia's activities, airspace violations, sabotage, jamming, the weaponizing of migration, and actions supporting its shadow fleet remain real threats. This is why NATO and European Union must keep strong focus on our regional security. NATO's air policing and air defense missions in the Baltic states will be strengthened further, and we work together towards that objective. The strongest deterrence comes from reinforced NATO collective defense, sanctions pressure on Russia, and continued military support to Ukraine. We value long-term US commitment, while European allies have to step up with higher defense spending and leadership. We support the new EU budget increase for defense. This is crucial for our security and the security of Europe. Eastern border countries need extra resources to bolster the border defenses and fight off all Russia's hybrid threats and incidents. We also have to invest more in cross-border connections, including military mobility, and make our critical infrastructure stronger and more resilient. Any peace plan in Ukraine has to include clear demands for Russia and credible security guarantees for Ukraine to prevent the war from happening again. The Estonian government has shown its readiness to contribute to the security guarantees, including with boots on the ground. There can be no limits on Ukraine's defense, and broader European security questions can only be shaped with NATO and the EU. Dear colleagues, journalists, allow me to turn for a moment to energy and transport issues. Our successful desynchronization from the Russian electricity grid is one of a major achievement of recent years. It proves how efficiently the Baltic states can act together. We must continue making the case in Europe that Russian energy imports must be phased out. And it is equally important to keep our strong energy partnership with the United States. Around 65% of our region's gas demand is met by United States LNG. Estonia is preparing new gas-fired capacity and slightly increasing imports. We are also analyzing the possible use of alternative sources of energy. Good connections between our countries strengthen our economy, our security, our daily life. Rail Baltica is extremely important for our whole region, and we must all accelerate its completion. In closing, I wish our Latvian and Lithuanian friends, all members of the press, and everyone across our region a peaceful and hopeful Christmas season. Even in challenging times, many we found calm, unity and strength in working together. Thank you very much for your attention.
Paldies, un vārds Lietuvas prezidentam.
Now I'm giving the floor to the President of Lithuania.
Dear Edgars, dear Alar, our meeting today is taking place here at the National Library of Latvia, alongside the exhibition Peace Begins with Books. As a book lover, I particularly enjoyed seeing this exhibition. It marks 500 years since the first printed book in Latvian, a work still waiting to be rediscovered. Until then, Lithuanians take pride in the oldest surviving book in Latvian, a Catholic Catechism, printed in Vilnius 440 years ago. This year's annual Baltic Presidents meeting takes place against the backdrop of growing geopolitical tensions, continuous Russian aggression and increased hybrid pressure on our borders. Regional security and the protection of the European Union and NATO external borders were at the center of our discussion. Our most urgent defense priorities remain air and missile defense, drones and anti-drones capabilities, military mobility, and key land systems. Lithuania is moving forward with the development of our national division and increasing defense spending to more than 5% of GDP next year. We must create more coordinated regional reaction models for airspace and maritime incidents and for further harmonization of border protection procedures. The Baltic states continue to safeguard the European Union's external border and counter attempts of instrumentalized migration. Lithuania is currently facing hybrid attacks from Belarus, from state-sponsored instrumentalized migration to smuggling balloons, which disrupt critical infrastructure and create risks for civil aviation. We highly value NATO's enhanced vigilance activity, Eastern Sentry, which strengthens air surveillance and air defense in the Baltic region, and welcome the deployment of the NATO counter-hybrid support team. Our immediate goal is faster implementation of the Baltic defense line. The transatlantic bond is a cornerstone of our security. Lithuania continues investing in infrastructure for allied forces, especially United States and German Brigade, by 2027. Speaking about transatlantic ties, it is not only about military cooperation, but also, as was mentioned by my colleague Alar, energy. We discussed joint regional LNG purchases from the United States. In the short term, the Baltic states agreed to work together so that LNG delivered to Klaipėda could reach Ukraine and help the country survive this difficult winter. We stand united in supporting Ukraine. No decisions should be taken about Ukraine without Ukraine. We must further strengthen Ukraine's defense, support its sovereignty and territorial integrity, and maintain strong pressure on Russia, including through sanctions and the reparations loan. European Union accession negotiations must move forward so that Ukraine can join the European Union by 2030. In discussing the multi-annual financial framework, we underlined that Europe's security, defense, military mobility, and critical infrastructure must be properly reflected in the next EU budget. The Baltic states invest heavily in protecting the EU's external border and strengthening civil resilience, and the European Commission is increasingly recognizing these efforts. It is important that the special treatment of the eastern border regions is fully reflected in the next MFF. Standing together, we will continue to strengthen our region. support Ukraine and safeguard the European future we all believe in. Thank you.
Paldies, pāriesim pie.
And now the media will have an opportunity to ask questions. Gatis Sukavetskis from TV3 in Latvia.
Presidents of Lithuania and Estonia, since President Rinkevich mentioned that you discussed the idea of possible dismantling of railway tracks at the border with Russia and Belarus, what are your thoughts on this? And if such a decision would be made, should it be made by all three Baltic states? Thank you.
Well, yes, of course we discussed this matter, and the answer is yes to the question whether we should do this together. Of course, we are in a different situation, let's say Lithuania and Estonia compared to Latvia, because there is a growing traffic between Central Asia and other parts of the world through Russia. So, if we do so, we should do it together, and we give it this, because it's a quite new topic. We give this to our ministers to discuss and then make up our decisions.
Thank you for the question. I think it's very, very important, the coordinated approach in implementing the Baltic Defence Line. Especially, I would stress the importance of coordination between the Baltic countries and Poland, which is also considering and planning to establish the Eastern Defence Line. So I think those projects deserve the attention of European Commission, and I think that it will be possible to finance not only in the short term, but also to include the plan of establishing Baltic Defence Line in the next MFF. Of course, we are highly interested in this new initiative, dismantling of railway lines to eastern countries. I think this is a part of counter-mobility measures we are considering, and it would be difficult to imagine if we will do business as usual and at the same time implement counter-mobility measures. So Baltic Defence Line should be our fortification against our adversaries, and I think the more coordinated we are, the more efficient will be the result.
Make one additional point, even if I'm not the president of Lithuania or Estonia, to whom the questions were answered. Let me make this crystal clear. This will be the joint coordination, but no decisions have been so far taken. There is still ongoing work in the government, and also I think our military experts and our Chiefs of Defense will discuss the overall development of Baltic Defence Line, because it's not only about rail, it's about, as President now said, and also President Karis just said, it's about counter-mobility measures that include more than one element. And yes, indeed, I think that we all believe that if we look at the map, the Baltic states, we can like it or not, is still one defense region. And all decisions then need to be discussed and coordinated, one way or another way. And when the time comes, I think that then also decisions will be made in that or another direction. But I would say that our suggestion is to look at the counter-mobility measures and also to the Baltic Defence Line as a complex issue, not to pick and choose one thing, even if it sounds great and sexy, even before the decisions are made.
Paldies. Nākamais ir lūdzu mikrofonu.
And the next question, please.
DPA. The German magazine Der Spiegel today published parts of a transcript of a call that took place on Monday between European leaders about the US-led peace negotiations with Kiev and Moscow. And according to this transcript, President Macron from France, he warned about that the US could betray Ukraine, and also other European leaders voiced a similar fear, and also were skeptical about the negotiations taking place between the US and especially Moscow and Kiev, and also warned that Ukraine and President Zelensky shouldn't be let alone with the US negotiators. So I wonder if you're having similar fears, and also I would be interested in your opinion about in general how the negotiations are, the current efforts of the U.S. administrations in this peace, on their peace plan. How are you seeing it, and are you thinking that they're going to lead anywhere? Thank you.
We highly value the efforts of United States administration to start the peace negotiations. But the problem is that both sides, Ukraine and Russia, have absolutely different assumptions and understanding what peace means. And since they are so far apart from each other, it's very difficult to find a consensus. You remember the chronology was like this. The initial plan was proposed. Then some amendments on behalf of Ukraine were made. And now this peace plan or draft of the peace plan is totally unacceptable for Russian side. So I think what we have to do, considering and understanding that situation is complex and situation is not easy to solve, we have to motivate and to bring Russia closer to negotiations table. How we can do it? Through strength. First of all, I would stress the importance of sanctions. And we are considering right now the 20th package of sanctions which should be imposed on Russia. And of course, consistent and strong military support to Ukraine. There are no questions and doubts that we have to support Ukraine with, by all means, what they need in order to preserve the stability on the battlefield, because Russia tries to prevail. Russia tries to occupy more and more territories of Ukraine, but they are not successful. And as far as we will support Ukraine, they will be not as successful as they would expect. So this is most important. Meanwhile, I think the chances that there will be a chance to find the compromise and consensus are minimal, but despite this, we have to try.
Well, let me say, first of all, I think that we all want to see peace in Ukraine, peace in Europe, and we all want to see that this peace corresponds to those principles that actually I already pointed out in my opening remarks, that territorial integrity of Ukraine, sovereignty of Ukraine, and also legitimate and important security concerns, security guarantees, if you wish, of Ukraine are being taken into account. I do believe that the US administration, President Trump, really wants to bring the peace. What I think is very clearly visible at this point is that Russia does not want to negotiate in good faith, that Russia wants to continue the war, and Russia is going to use all kinds of possible ways how to pretend to have negotiations, but at the end of the day not to agree on that or another peace plan or peace deal. I think that this was quite obvious also from those reports that we are seeing. That's one. Number two, I do believe that in such kind of discussions that we have, Europe as well as Ukraine must be at the table, not on the table. And it is important, especially if we talk also about the role of Europe when it comes to some of the elements of the possible deal. And I do believe that there is still diplomacy also for Europe to talk also with the United States and also to discuss ways how to ensure what I have just said. At the same time, I think that it is also quite obvious that we here in the Baltic states probably have seen a lot of history, and I would say that I'm very often being asked the question how fearful you are or how worried you are. We are not paid here to be fearful or worried. We are paid to protect our own countries and to make sure that also our friends are getting the best possible deal. But then those people who are now thinking about those kind of things, they should make also decisions about frozen Russian assets. Because if we really want to make a difference, that's number one issue. Number two, it's about sanctions. Number three, it's about defense capabilities, the further assistance to Ukraine, where we all as the European Union and broader than that will have to play the role. So we do see diplomatic and political movements and efforts. We very much appreciate, from our point of view here in Latvia, all the efforts that the United States do, but we also understand that in order to achieve some kind of deal, you first need Russia to agree and to drop its plan to conquer Ukraine, and number two, then also we need a very strong, united position of the European Union and, in that sense, even broader Europe on some of the key issues.
Yes, what should I add? I mean, we all agree. I mean, guess what? We want peace, not servitude. And one problem, of course, we do appreciate what President Trump is doing together with Zelensky to find a solution and just peace for this situation. The problem is that it's not President Trump who is going to sign this agreement. It's Putin. That means, but you all see that Putin doesn't want any kind of peace. Instead, he's putting pressure on Ukraine, and winter is coming, and so forth. So what we can do is to more we do at this very moment to support Ukraine, and the question was also whether we know what's going on. We are in direct and indirect contact with President Zelensky and others, so we do know approximately what's going on. Of course, we are not behind the table. We don't know what exactly the discussions are, but we get the information from President Zelensky.
Paldies, un noslēdzošos jautājumus.
Thank you so much. And the Latvian television, the last question.
Of Latvian public broadcaster LTV. I'm going to ask the questions in English and to Latvian to our president. First, Lithuanian president, there has been serious concerns in Lithuania currently about undermining independence of the public broadcaster. As you know, there has been bills put forth in the parliament. The budget has been frozen for 3 years. And also the moves to make it easier to dismiss the director of the LRT of the council. What's your position of this? Do you support or are you against the government proposals there? Also in Estonia, my understanding ERR's chief has said there's similar pressures to that sometimes. Also, there was a bill in the parliament recently, I think, proposed by EKRE, by one of the parties, to just finish with the ERR, to put it lightly. And also to Latvian president,
Yes, also here we had signals from politicians, and if they get to power, there will be big changes in the national television. They were talking about the third member of the supervision board. And do you see any risks to national public media, and what could be the way how independence could be challenged?
Okay, again, me. It's not a problem. I will start from your first question. Lithuania ranks number 14 according to the global index on freedom of mass media. We are highly interested to preserve this really very high place in the future. All the amendments of national legislation should be in line with the principles of political neutrality, accountability, and transparency, and it's particularly applicable for national broadcaster. So I think we have to respect those rules and those principles by making any amendments of national law. Freezing of the financial resources. You know, we are in the situation where Lithuania seeks to spend on defense next year 5.38% of our GDP. Of course, it means that the belt tightening is the priority for many institutions, and we try to do our best in saving the money and spending on the priorities which are crucially important currently in Lithuania, and of course not only in Lithuania, but in the region and the eastern flank too.
Thank you for the question. I mean, my colleague from Lithuania started this, but I have to say that Estonia is number 2 in this ranking list. So we are rather free in as far as media is concerned, and we try to keep it like it is. And as far as the question of one political party concerns, I mean, from Parliament and from the members of Parliament, they come up with very different ideas. And quite a number of times you can't take it seriously. So we are not going to close down our Estonian broadcast. And also we are building a new building for this ERR. So we are looking forward that our media independence with this new building stays the same. Thank you.
Latviski vai angliski? Okay, I have to answer in Latin, you know. The demand. Nu, man ir tiešām liels.
Yes, I'm very happy that there is true solidarity, not only between the presidents of the Baltic states, but also from public broadcasters of the Baltic states. It means our integration and good cooperation is on all levels. And I want to say that we have to split those issues in several categories. First one, have there been politicians that have said that the public broadcaster is working on behalf of the competitors, or is not giving enough attention to politicians that want to have information published? I think this has always been the case, and I think we will never achieve the status, and maybe that's a good news, that there will always be certain tension, which actually means that you as the public broadcaster are doing your job well. I have heard from the opposition parties as well as coalition parties, I have heard really critical words against the public broadcaster about your neutrality, and I think it's good. Because we also have the effect of social media, which is an additional burden. And I understand that one day somebody becomes a COVID specialist, another day the same person is the rail gauge specialist. So there are so many people who give advice. I think this is the reality of the 21st century. Regarding the second point, I think the fact that Saima has discussed 2 potential candidates and decided to reject them, it doesn't mean that there is pressure on the public broadcaster. Saima has an opportunity to come up with candidates and as well as decide on them. So there were options, and there were really deep conversations about it. We had the opportunity to talk to the speaker of Saima yesterday, and we are talking about Sanita Jägermane, and we understand that we can use the time to strengthen independence of the public broadcaster, both on the legal level, because right now we see that the system is not perfect. It has some challenges. We have talked about a similar model that there is in Estonia, because it's an independent, it's a foundation. So we maybe decide to go away from the situation when Saima decides on everything. We could come up with a memorandum. We can decide on an option where the president of the country also comes up with options. I don't know if Saima will be the one soon to decide on that issue, but I think we could spend the time to come up with models that could work. And the last issue, do you feel that somebody is trying to affect you? Yeah, I think it's a good news then. Thank you so much, dear presidents, and thank you so much to mass media representative.